You might have seen this tweet from Aaron Nagler, who was talking about moving the combine out of Indianapolis, which selfishly for me, I would rather it was in Las Vegas or Los Angeles, or even Phoenix, San Francisco. I don't know, anywhere where it's a less than an hour flight, and I can book at the last minute. Indianapolis requires a lot of legwork for me to go out there and get it done, and a lot of times too, with the application to the scouting combine, the NFL scouting combine, like I'm not even guaranteed. So it's like, oh, do I really want to book these flights? I always fly out of Long Beach, so everything is typically a connection for me, unless, of course, I'm going to Chicago. They go straight on from Long Beach to Midway. Although at Midway, I don't know if I want to fly Midway. Actually, I don't want to fly anymore. I might not fly for the next 4 years. But in any event, I think the scouting combine, and we'll talk to Greg about this when he comes on. Indianapolis is a great city, and it's a great town. And I know that I understand why people are like, maybe, no. Indianapolis is such a great place. Everything's right there. You don't have to go. There's elevated walkways pretty much anywhere. I don't know if you can get all the way to the NBA arena, but it's something like that. And so the scouting combine truly is a lot of fun. And Indianapolis is a great city. I hope they go there sometime when it's not like 3 degrees or whatever it is, 5 degrees. I think it's 5 degrees a day. In any event, there's a lot of cool stuff. Anxious to talk to Greg about it. So Shane, let's just go ahead and start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Wednesday night, you know what that means? It is time for Take It to the Reg. Is it really Wednesday, Shane? Like, oh my God. Like, I don't know what happened. I don't know how we're already to Wednesday this week. It's incredible. The NFL scouting combine is well underway. We're going to be talking to Greg Braggs about that in just a moment. But before we do, I want to let everybody know, as we talk about the future stars of the NFL, it's time to start thinking about which one of these cards we're going to start collecting. Who are the rookies that is it Abdul Carter? Are we going to get all his cards? Well, I want to remind you that Windy City Sports Cards is the premier place for all your sports cards needs. At Windy City Sports Cards, we specialize in buying and selling all things related to Chicago sports, whether you are a diehard fan of the Bears, Bulls, Cubs, White Sox, Blackhawks, Sky, Fire. We've got you covered with an extensive selection of sports memorabilia and collectibles, and you can visit the store online and find exactly what you're looking for. Go to WindyCitySportsCards.com or just watch us here and let us know. And by the way, and it doesn't even need to be a Chicago thing. If you want to go out there, if you're trying to find a Gale Sayers card or something like that, of course you would go to Windy City Sports Cards. But after a lot of these guys, if you want a Shedeur Sanders card, if you want an Abdul Carter, whomever, Windy City Sports Cards will hook you up and give you the best customer service ever. I got a couple of new things, and I don't have them on my person. Mike sent me a couple of cool things, but thank you so much, everybody. At Windy City Sports Cards, we do appreciate you. All right, now it's time to talk about the NFL Scouting Combine, and we have some forces on the ground there. You know him from CHGO, but more importantly, he's on the Take It to the Rank every Wednesday evening. Please welcome back to the show our friend Greg Braggs.
Hey, how we doing, guys?
How are we? So, you heard me sitting there talking about this. How do you like Indianapolis as a host city? Because I think I like Indianapolis a ton.
Yeah, well, I mean, for the NFL Combine, it's perfect, right? Because everything's walking distance. They have the best facilities that you can have for all the different things they need done, whether it's the convention center for all the podium stuff with the media stuff, and there's all that. Then you obviously have Lucas Oil Stadium where they do the testing and the drills, but then more importantly, maybe over all of that stuff, the medicals.
Yeah.
There's really good resources here where all these players, each have to get their medicals done by 32 different teams. so you have a few like last year where they're only allowing, X amount of teams to get their medicals because they're not going to be taken by the first few. So, that in that regard, like it's just a very convenient city and it's a quieter city. So, it's not like the Super Bowl where you're going to have all sorts of melee going on. And so when you're walking the street at night, there's not very many people out here. And it's a clean city too. This is my home state of Indiana. So I'm down in Indianapolis all the time for the Big Ten tournament and all sorts of things. The Final Four will be here next year. WrestleMania was here a couple years ago. So Indianapolis is a great host city. And when they had the Super Bowl here one time,
was it just one time? Okay.
Yeah, when the New York Giants beat the New England Patriots, they were actually very fortunate because it ended up being like a summer day out. Like the weekend of the Super Bowl, it was like in Midwestern terms.
I was going to say now it rained.
Probably would have been.
It rained. I was there.
It would have been like a -20 Celsius or whatever you say. But here,
whatever the world says.
We here in Indiana say Fahrenheit, and it was like upper 60s for the Super Bowl that year or something. And because I can remember
it was cold. It was cold that week. It was it rained on Saturday because I know that we went over to the slippery noodle on Saturday. We actually got kicked out of the in the basement room of the slippery noodle. There is a dome hockey game, and my friend and I were playing it. And like people, like these guys came up and tried to challenge me one time.
Yeah,
and I'm like, really? And then I started doing one-timers with this thing, and they're like, okay, we're leaving. Yeah. Never mind. We did eventually get kicked out because two celebrities walked in. I don't want to say who it was, but who cares? It was Maria Menounos and Tim Tebow.
But overall, like I said, it's a great host city. And so I think the combine will stay here for a while, but sometimes I think there's consideration to make it a Super Bowl type event, but I think the NFL people probably would prefer not to, but money talks sometimes.
I was going to say, once these cities start bidding on it, then it's over. Like the NFL draft, like there was no better place for the NFL draft than New York City. Like it's got everything and anything you would want. And it's amazing. A great venue at Radio City Music Hall. And they're like, well, now these cities are going to pay billions. Like, why is it going to Green Bay of all the places? I can't wait for that. I can't wait for it to be 12 degrees out and it's going to be sleeting or something. But anyways, who cares about any of that? We'll talk about the draft when it becomes more appropriate because right now we're doing the NFL scouting combine. What's the vibe there like? Because last year there was a lot of buzz, obviously, because the Chicago Bears had the first overall selection.
Right.
And everybody was talking about Caleb Williams and all this stuff. What is the vibe like now from the Bears perspective? Or even is there a palpable buzz over Abdul Carter? Or do people just like, it is what it is?
Yeah, I mean, so no, the Bears are not the belle of the ball like they were the last 2 years when they had the number 1 pick and rumors a couple years ago that they're going to trade it. And then just a few days after the combine, you started to, you felt that momentum here in Indianapolis that it was pending. It could happen at any moment. We leave Indianapolis, they trade the pick to the Carolina Panthers, which then results in the Bears being the belle of the ball again last year, like you said, for the number 1 pick in Caleb Williams and having the number 9 pick, which ended up being Roma Dunze, and he was great here last year at the Combine. So, yeah, this year there isn't the same kind of national buzz, and for Bears fans, I think I think it's probably welcomed at this point because if you're the belle of the ball here, that means that you're one of the worst teams, right? And but at the same time, I think the Bears, I think we all understand as Bears fans, this last year was probably as disappointing as it comes. So national people have moved on, but we as Bears fans, I think are probably pleasantly, are just very happy with the narrative of this year, which is trenches, 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 right? Last year, it's all quarterback talk. The year before, it's trade the pick talk. Well, this year we're talking about meat and potatoes. We're talking about the offensive line. Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles took a lot of questions on Tuesday about that. offensive lineman will talk to the media on Saturday morning, so I haven't had a chance to speak to any of the players in the draft directly yet. But that's what the narrative surrounding the Bears is. What are they going to do in free agency?
Right.
Will Trey Smith be available? What are some different options at center and guard? And then obviously who could they potentially draft, at 10, specifically on the offensive line, whether it be Will Campbell or Gray Zabel, or are you going to wait till you get to the second round, or are you going to trade back? And so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun couple of weeks. Obviously, the franchise tag situation is coming up. Do you know when the deadline is for that? Isn't it soon?
No, I don't know for certain what the deadline is. Maybe the super producer in the background can get us the exact date. I don't want to say the wrong thing. But yeah, it'll be.
I don't care. I'm gonna do the dead. I'm just gonna say something. No,
yeah, you're just gonna guess. I'm
gonna guess and just run with it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares about facts anymore, so it doesn't matter. It's whatever. Yeah. I'll sign an executive order and just say it's now. Too late, Chiefs. No, this says 4 p.m. Eastern on March 4th. Okay. March 4th, which is always a great day, March 4th, because you're marching forth. So the Bears will know whether they're going to march forth with Trey Smith or not on March 4th. Which is good. But you talked about Ben Johnson getting an opportunity to go out there and meet with the media. Obviously, he had his introductory press conference, but now the staff is fully formed. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. So, Shane, can we listen to Ben Johnson talking a little bit about what went into his process of hiring his coaching staff?
What's so beautiful about the coaching staff that we put together is I didn't hire a bunch of my friends. I went outside of my circle on purpose because I wanted to collect a different mix of experience, of energy, ideas, and we're all going to make it come together, and it's going to be the Chicago Bears going forward. And so it can look a number of different ways. Eric Bieniemy's got a lot of experience in the gun run game and what they did in Kansas City, obviously. And Declan has a lot of success from the Sean Payton tree, and Press Taylor has a lot of success from the Chip Kelly all the way on. And so we've got a lot of library, if you will, to draw from, and we'll see it all come together once we get our hands on these guys.
Do you think the movie Black Sheep is better than Tommy Boy? This feels like something you would. This feels like something. This is because there's a scene in Black Sheep where he's stumping for his brother, and he's going on, and I think it was it Mudhoney who's there with him, and they're like cheering him on, and then he says one thing too many. Chris Farley goes a little too far, and I think once he brought up Press Taylor. You're like, you know what, Ben? I was really with you and all this stuff. Then you brought up Press Taylor. You're like, no, maybe not say that. No, but no, I'm kidding. Listen, I know the Jags fans were all over us when we hired Press Taylor. It's like, well, you got Shane Waldron. Can we just have a detente? Let's call it a truce right now. What did you make of those comments when Ben Johnson was talking about that? I feel like it's excellent point. Like this isn't like his cronies sitting there. This sounds like a guy who's trying to really fill out a robust coaching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll also add that the person that asked that question to elicit that answer is a very good looking and charming and intelligent person. And I just want to make sure.
Was it me?
That individual. Oh no, unfortunately it wasn't, because I haven't yet convinced you to start coming to the combine, but one of these days I'm going to make sure that you're here for it.
Listen, I'm in the middle of tournament season.
Yeah, I understand you've got championships to chase, but I need you here. But yes, had you been here, I think you would have seen that.
What was the question? What was the question that you asked? What was your exact wording?
I don't remember.
But no, it's a great answer. No, I'm curious because,
honestly,
but obviously, a lot of people are getting a lot of run with that comment and posting in all the places. So you obviously asked a great question. But what was your response?
To me, when I heard him say it, it makes sense, right? It's one of those things where you bringing in different mindsets. I think the key with all of it though is you got to still be the head chef. All right. Yeah. Because you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen. And
Yeah.
you can bring in a lot of different mindsets and viewpoints and that, okay, I can understand that recipe. But
Yeah.
the only way to cook all those ingredients in the pot and make it taste good is if the head chef is making sure that it's what he wants. And so you remember when Matt Nagy kind of had a similar coaching staff, right? So I'm not trying to throw, a wet blanket on it, but, he said the same things. I'm bringing in Mark Helfrich. I'm bringing in, Harry Hiestand. I'm bringing in this guy and all these different people from these different places. We're going to come together and have a meeting of the mind. Okay, cool. But at the end of the day, you're the man in charge. You're the one that's running this. You're the one that came from Detroit and had 70 touchdowns and had Jared Goff take his career to another level. And so that is what you were hired here to do. Good coaching staff. I think overall, outside of all the different opinions and viewpoints on how to run an offense, I'm more excited for this coaching staff from a leadership and teaching standpoint when you consider guys like Eric Bieniemy and Antoine Randall and Al Harris, who he talked about. He couldn't believe Al Harris was available, and here he is. So maybe they're not friends, but his, I think his resume of Al Harris was as a player, who he's been as an assistant coach down in Dallas, speaks for itself. His reputation precedes him. So now he's here. And that's why it's like, okay, I don't need my friends. I need guys in here that are going to do the job. And so beyond the X's and O's, I think this coaching staff is certainly going to bring a lot in terms of connecting with the players. The players are going to trust them because you got a lot of former players on that coaching staff as well.
We're so wounded by Matt Eberflus that when you talk about Matt Nagy, I still don't see it as that big of a negative. Went to the playoffs in 2018.
Sure.
Went 3 times in 4 years, whatever it was. And it's like, yeah, it could have been better. I think that a lot of the problems with Matt Nagy stem from the fact that he didn't call plays in Kansas City, which ended up being kind of a detriment, which is something that Ben Johnson does not have to worry about because he's got plenty of experience being a part of a coaching staff. So I understand what you're saying with that. There is something to it, but at the same time, it feels like Ben Johnson's going to be one of those dudes that's, everything stops with me. And honestly, like Matt Nagy did a decent enough job of that.
Your point's right. It's just command the room, command the players, command Hallis Hall, like you did when you walked in and you told the whole staff at Hallis Hall, we're going to do everything we can to do right by the players in that locker room. You got to do the same thing with your coaching staff. Okay, you guys all come from different landscapes, but we are here to serve the players and get the best out of this team. And so, yeah, Matt Nagy, obviously 2 playoff appearances, we'd kill for that at this point.
Yeah, right.
But I can also remember being in London in 2019 and watching Matt Nagy and Harry Hiestand screaming at each other on the sideline. So I don't know if they exactly saw eye to eye. And so that's kind of the point. No, you don't need to hire your friends. But at the same time, like, you guys got to be able to come together as a coaching staff, and everyone's got to respect that Ben Johnson is the lead man in charge and not question the vision once he has final say on certain things.
Yeah, the Helfrich thing, I was just like, what in the F is going on? But everybody that he's been bringing in has been guys that we wanted him to bring in. Remember, when this process was starting, you're like, I hope Antoine Randall is somebody who's coming over as part of this team. And obviously that's going to make a world of difference for me. I think Dennis Allen, even though it wasn't his guy, Dennis Allen is going to go out and do his thing, which is, be one of the best defensive coordinators in the game. And Al Harris, as you mentioned, I love having Al Harris on our side. It'll take a while for me to be convinced that he's not a Packers operative. But that's fair. I'm sure he can understand that. There are some other cool clips we want to be able to drop here from Ben Johnson. Here's him talking about the Breakfast Club. So, Shane, if we can fire that one up, please.
Well, I'm not working with the quarterback right now, but I will be soon enough. So we already have a plan in place in terms of Harry Freed was already on staff. He's someone I've got a relationship with from going back to Miami. I think very highly of him, and I'm really looking forward to sitting down. We've already started this process. We call it the Breakfast Club. He and I go 30 minutes every day right now, and he's just I said, teach me like I'm a rookie quarterback from the start to the finish. And so we're about halfway through his program right now. And so once we get through that, we'll make a decision on where we want to go in terms of when the players get in and educating them on how we want to handle the situations that can pop up and potentially win or lose ball games for us.
Where's your confidence level on Ben Johnson developing Caleb Williams right now?
I mean, I'm very confident that he knows what he's doing. Now it comes down to Caleb Williams, trusting Ben Johnson, right? That's the other half of the equation. Even though Ben Johnson hasn't been here, there's just something about, I just think Ben Johnson is, I said it on Tuesday, Carm laughed at me as he likes to do, but I just think he's electric. I really do. I think this guy has an intensity and a directness, an attention to detail. I try to have a feel on people. He's still got a lot to prove. He's still got to show who he is as a commander in a locker room and a leader and all that other stuff, leading the other 52 guys on the team, 53 overall. But I just really have a lot of confidence that Ben Johnson is the right guy. And I think Caleb Williams has all the potential to be a great quarterback. But as we've learned in Chicago or anywhere else in the NFL, it's how these guys come together and form a bond. Until they actually start doing it, how confident am I? I'm excited. I'm encouraged. I'm optimistic. I'm looking forward to it. But we gotta see it. We gotta see how this all fits. Caleb has all the talent in the world. Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. He's proven that over 3 years. So put those two together, and it's going to be different. It's not going to be like Detroit. So that's my biggest question. Like, man, you're okay. Makes sense. Caleb's not Jared Goff, so you're going to run a different offense. But that offense scored 70 touchdowns, like I said earlier. Like, so that's pretty bold. Like, no.
Let me ask you though. Let me stop you right there, because like I know that everybody has made a big deal about that. I don't feel like he's scrapping the entirety of the offense, but I just feel like he's going to be able to add some wrinkles to it that he wasn't able to do when he had Jared Goff running the offense.
Yeah, well, you just got to get him in a rhythm, right? Because every first quarter was a disaster. Every first half was a disaster. But then by the second half, in some games, not all, they'd get going. He'd get going. And you can point to, the other team gave up garbage yards, all this other stuff. I don't care. That's last year. All that matters is how do you get him in a rhythm going forward this year? I mean, the offensive coordinator start last year wasn't even scripting the first 15 plays.
Yeah.
And that, and then the other aspect of it, because you're playing that clip a minute ago where you're talking about, keep the Breakfast Club, bringing in this guy that is the time management, the game management guy. That's the other aspect of all this. We could talk about the plays all we want, but the other failure of last year was clock management, game management, clutch situations, situational football at the end of games, especially failed this team. It failed Caleb Williams. He's a rookie. So he saw a lot of things go wrong, and his, Ben Johnson and his coaching staff and Caleb Williams all have to be prepared for those scenarios that will inevitably come this year in 2025.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about like being able to use what people and just getting it down to the basics about it. And again, I know I use AYSO examples far too much, but like I have two players who play keeper, and I have this girl, Lana, who is she has experience playing water polo, and then I have my daughter. And so with my daughter, anytime she stops the ball, like until she gets more comfortable, I'm like, hey, you find Abby and you run out to her, and Abby will come meet you, and you drop the ball at her feet and she'll start to play. Whereas with the other girl, I can be like, if I yell out water polo, she knows that she's hucking it down. She's not left-handed like I am, but she's hucking it down the field and can get things started. And I think that that's one of the biggest keys for this staff is being like, okay, take it down to the basics and get Caleb Williams to that part of like, okay, this is the most simple part of it. And last year, we kind of thought it was a good idea. I'm like, well, they're trusting Caleb Williams a lot, which in theory sounds pretty good. Like, yeah, you should be able to trust your players. But then you're like, well, then the final 40 seconds of the game against the Lions happens. You're like, well, maybe it is fine to step in and maybe overcoach a little bit. And I think that's kind of what I took from that last clip is like, we're going to go through this, figure out and be like, okay, and we'll get to a point. And I know that Caleb having that experience of last year will eventually kick in and it's going to be fine. And we're going to be able to do, he'll be able to grow, in this offense.
Well, and the other equation to this, quarterback, staff, head coach in those situational moments, also your center. I know Barstool Big Ken, I'm part of my take, talking to Ben Johnson. I do think this quote is kind of worth just in this conversation. He says, Ben Johnson says, it's less about me and more about the quarterback when talking about the center position. With Caleb being a second-year player and everything that entails, I thought he had a productive first year in terms of exposure of a lot of things that can go wrong. To help him out the most going forward, I do think we need a strong presence at center, smart player that can help set the table for a run game and pass protection perspective. So I think that's another part of it. There is somebody else that can help set the table, get everybody's ducks in a row so that, Caleb, the more he can just react and play and not be thinking about 700 things and then build that up, then I think the more you'll see, all the ability just pour out of him.
Yeah. And I think for any sport too, when you have people going into a situation where, you're doing this, you're taking care of this, you're calling out the mic, you're doing that, and a lot of that stuff helps ease the anxiety of a lot of players. If going into any situation, okay, this is my job. It kind of goes back to the Bill Belichick part of do your job. If you know what that job is, go out there and execute it to the best of your abilities. Although it will help when you're executing these plays if you have some superstars and some playmakers, which incidentally, Shane, is something that Ben Johnson was talking about this week.
Yeah, playmakers all over the roster. Doesn't matter. Offense, defense, D-line, secondary. We want them all over the place. And, as an offensive guy, I look on at defensive players, and if it's an issue for me to game plan against, and absolutely, we'd love to have them on our roster as a defensive player to go after our opponents. But it's not always that easy, and it really, at the end of the day, it comes down to 11 guys doing their job. If you don't have that star power, that's okay. You can still be an effective unit. And so, we want as many playmakers and stars as we possibly can. But at the same time, we know that complementary football wins in this league. We know that 11 guys playing as one also wins in this league.
Complementary football. How do we feel about that phrase?
Yeah, that's why you bring in Dennis Allen. That's why they're going to likely bring in, a top line pass rusher in some regard, whether it's the number 10 pick or free agency. That's why it's we're still kind of in that hypothetical phase of this whole thing. And so it's hard to say which one it's going to be and which way they're going to go. Mm-hmm. They did, cut DeMarcus Walker over the weekend and Gerald Everett. And so I think that started to give you the beginning roadmap of how this whole thing is going to look in the first offseason for Ben Johnson. They were already, needing another pass rusher. You can't have enough pass rushers. But when you cut DeMarcus Walker, now it becomes even more of a glaring, obvious need. Yeah. And so that's where, it to me, it shows you that they're going to attack some of these top line edge rushers in free agency. Everybody has a cutoff on price. And then I think there's a lot of very good defensive linemen available in the first round and in the second round, but they would talk to a lot of them today. And to me, if it were me personally, I would draft defensive line at 10. And I know a lot of fans will get frustrated with that statement, but I want to attack free agency with my offensive line. And I'm telling you, there are some very good interior offensive linemen available in the second round. The Bears have 2 second-round picks. You have a third-round pick, and I think there's some really good interior offensive linemen in that realm. The defensive linemen, to me, I think hold more value in the first round that make more sense in that spot. So we'll see. There's still a long way to play out, but that's kind of where my headspace is at. Adam Schefter was saying that the difference between the number 35 pick and the 10th pick isn't that much to him. So that's kind of the chatter going around, is that those top 8, 9 guys, that's why we're just outside of that. Not to say you can't get a top line player. you never know when it comes to the draft. But that's kind of where I'm at with this thing right now. And I still think a trade back at 10 makes a lot of sense. Get more bullets, get more picks, get a guy, an impact player, and then add and stack the deck with the rest of the way you're going to attack your roster.
Yeah, I don't know what show it was on with us, whether we were on CHGO, if it was here. We were talking about this exact same scenario where for me, and I think that was exactly what I was talking about as well, is like my gut feel is that we end up taking a defensive lineman at number 10. If we stick with number 10, or even trade down, I think that defensive lineman is going to be the pick because the defensive lineman that you get at 10 is going to be better than the offensive lineman that you get at 10. And I think we're going to be pushing it. We're going to be wish casting somebody at number 10 if we take an offensive lineman, unless something weird happens with the fall. And then at the same time, like if one of these quarterbacks falls, similar to what the Giants were able to extract from us for the Justin Fields deal, if for whatever reason, and honestly, like Shedeur Sanders, because of his father, could end up turning off a lot of teams who would maybe want a quarterback and be like, you know what, we're not going to do it. And then if there's a team down a little bit in this draft, it's like, oh, well, then why don't we jump up? Why don't we go from 20 to 10 or whatever it is? And if you can end up with a couple of extra pieces. I know somebody had just, again, I forgive me. I know that the Bears Twitter just kind of runs together at some point, but so we're like, somebody was saying that we don't need to act like we're in a rebuild or we're in a win now, so we should just take the best player who's available at number 10. I'm like, we need bodies. Like, we need depth, and we need to start building out our roster and getting as many players, as many capable players as possible needs to be the ultimate priority here over the next couple of weeks. Obviously, a lot of it's going to kick off with the free agency period, but at the same time, the draft is another place too to get some cheap alternatives to some of these players and go out there and stockpile the ranks so much as they will be prone to say. Let's talk about though Declan Doyle, and Arsenal played earlier today, so I'm trying not to say Declan Rice. Here are a couple of comments that Ben Johnson was making about Declan Doyle on Monday.
So, great story about him. I ended up calling John Morton, who took the OC job at Detroit. He'd worked with Declan the last couple of years, and I asked him, I said, hey, how's Declan doing? Is he ready to be a coordinator? He said, Ben, listen, he's another Ben Johnson, which I think that's a good thing. I'm banking on that being a good thing. So, listen, I think he and I are a match made in heaven. He thinks very much like me. It's been awesome getting him into the building the last few weeks, and extremely detailed, extremely organized. The age does not matter. He is going to be respected by not only the players, but also his fellow coaches as well. I can already see that coming into place with the coaching staff meetings that we're having right now. He's very well informed. It's just like anybody, if you can help make the people around you better, they're going to find value in you. And so that's what Declan's bringing to the table for us right now.
I don't know. When he's like, hey, he's another Ben Johnson, that feels, I don't know. Like if I was talking about, what if I was talking about you? And I'm like, you know what, Greg is another Adam Rank.
Well, I'd be honored if you said that.
I don't know. But I would still feel like I'm a little full of myself if I was saying that.
Well, I mean, Ben Johnson certainly isn't short of confidence. There's no question about that. So, yeah, a little flex on everyone there in that moment. I mean, I think I found it interesting where he said, okay, I made a call and this guy came highly, this guy came highly recommended. Well, he's a young guy, and so it would have made more sense to me if Declan Doyle was chosen to come here because him and Ben were close. That would have made sense. Like to take a shot on a guy that has been, recommended by different people, and Sean Payton speaks highly of him. I know he talked about him at the podium the other day as well. And so, obviously he's on the right trajectory, but Ben's certainly taken a leap there by bringing him in without really knowing him and just bringing him in based off of recommendation. But at the same time, I think we all understand what Declan Doyle's role is going to be. Yeah. And that's going to be, he's going to be locked into a closet with like 8 computers, and they're going to have him running every analytical, possibility on players and plays and film and prep for the next team and all that stuff that Ben Johnson has been doing as he's built up his resume to now become the head coach of the Chicago Bears. He's going to be having Declan Doyle do all that stuff for him so he can, get to the bigger task at hand.
No, and I agree with you. I mean, like he's the offensive coordinator of the Bears, which means he's not going to be calling the plays. That's going to be Ben Johnson's role. If we had a defensive minded coach, if we had if Mike Vrabel had been hired and Declan Doyle was his offensive coordinator, you'd be like, all right, I hope this works. I mean, it's worked in other places. It's been successful in other places. You see like Matt LaFleur when he was in Tennessee, Arthur Smith when he was in Tennessee. Some of these other guys, you're like, okay, like it's worked out before, but that would give me a little bit of hesitation. But the fact that Ben Johnson is calling the plays, there's no mistaking. And again, you don't want to bring in somebody, you don't need to bring in somebody like Norv Turner. Like Scott Turner kind of gets in out of his depth. They got to bring in Norv Turner or whatever. Ben Johnson's called plays before in the NFL. So it's not like he needs somebody there to hold his hand. What he needs is an experienced defensive coordinator, which is why Dennis Allen is here. So for me, I really like that. I think that giving the opportunity, and it is cool that he called John Morton. Is like, hey, give me the read on this guy. Because honestly, like if Declan Doyle doesn't really do his job, I don't think it really matters. I don't think it will end up costing us games if he's not. But if he's this guy who's kind of a diamond in the rough, who's like a beautiful mind type of person, who's able to spot some things and be like, oh no, if you run motion here, these guys are doing this, and we split it, if he ends up being one of those kind of guys, then I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think it's worth rolling the dice because we already know that our offensive coordinator is already good because it is Ben Johnson. And
I think the one thing, and I apologize because I keep doing this to you, but to add on to this, I think the one thing that really stands out to me in this discussion is like, all right, Declan Doyle is going to have this role, and Ben Johnson is the guru that's going to run the offense, but now he's also a head coach, and we're putting so much on him to have Caleb Williams become what we all hope he can be. Well, JT Barrett's role now I think becomes very important because you don't have like you don't need 20 people around him like the Bears tried to do last year. But at the same time, I don't know how much Declan Doyle can help teach Caleb Williams when they're essentially the same age, but I'm sure he's going to have input and help him mentor his game. But then you also have, Ben Johnson, who's going to have a big role there, but he's also got 52 guys on the rest of the roster. And it's like 98 other guys when you start training camp. So you have essentially JT Barrett, because your backup quarterback's Tyson Bagent. He's not mentoring, any kind of like vet looking over, helping, in the way that it looks like, you hear Bryce Young with Andy Dalton, who came back to be that for Bryce. Like Caleb doesn't have that. So I think we haven't really heard too much from JT Barrett, and he wasn't really talked about on Tuesday. So maybe that's my bad for not asking into that. But I think his role is going to be really, really important because ultimately Ben's not going to always be able to have one-on-one time as much as we all hope he can have.
No, that's very true. And it really is about the support staff. And when you start talking about JT Barrett, then you're like, Ohio State guy. I don't know.
Don't do this. See,
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. But don't take our word for it. Dan Campbell also had some words about the Chicago Bears coaching staff. Shane, can we go ahead and play those comments from Dan Campbell?
You told Ben Johnson and AG is building a staff. So I'm curious your thoughts on the staff that Ben Johnson's built and your time with him and now going up against him twice a year.
Yeah, I don't know everybody that he's hired, but I know probably half of them, and they're all really good coaches. I think he's built an outstanding coaching staff from the guys that I know personally. Certainly, I worked with DA, Dan Rochar, number of guys over there that I think are really good coaches. And so, look, it's got to be different to see him over there on the other sideline since he's been on ours for 4 years. That'll be different, but that's the way this game works. Somebody's got to be on our sideline, somebody's got to be on the other, and you play to win.
He said about not hiring his friends was part of his philosophy here. Is that something that you did when you built the staff?
Yeah, I think it's you're fortunate if you can find the right guy that happens to be your friend. I don't think that's the easiest thing. If you can, good for you, man. That's awesome because it's somebody you really know, you can trust, they're competent, and they can coach. You know, those don't always go hand in hand. I think the worst thing you can do is just hire your buddy, but he's not real good at what he does, whatever that is. And don't knock on anybody else, I'm just saying. So I think it's important you get the right guys, and they're about ball, and they're going to see it the way you see it.
Look at that. Got the follow-up in there, too. Great work by you. And by the way, Dan Campbell, do you not know who Antoine Randall is? Like you
or JT Barrett. Or JT Barrett.
JT Barrett.
Yeah, I don't think it was a thing where he didn't bring him up because he's mad they went with him. But like if I had either to pick a second follow-up, and I thought, you know, because I wanted to tie in.
It was a good
I thought it was a good tie in with what Ben said, but if I had to, if 1A, 1B follow-up would have been like, well, what did you think of Antoine Randall and JT Barrett leaving? Because he didn't mention them, and I don't think it was out of disrespect. I think he's trying to, honestly, answer the question honestly, but there's so much going on that he just couldn't think of it in that moment. But it would have been nice to hear that thought of his assistant coaches taking off to Chicago with Ben.
Yeah, we did. Well, obviously during the Super Bowl, I was able to ask David Montgomery about that. And he was like, dude, he was saying, like, I don't like the fact that Antoine Randall left. Like, he's like, I don't think that at all, which is good. That's what you want. It was the exact opposite of Jackson Smith and Jigba being like, hey, no boy. You guys hired Shane Walden. No boy.
Yeah. But, yeah. No, I you like that, right? I don't, you're not hearing too many, all due respect, but you're not hearing too many Bears players saying, like, oh man, we're mad that he went to Dallas and he's staying in the conference and all this stuff. Like, and now you get this NFLPA report where the players grade, the facilities and everything else and give all the grades across the organization, and ranked number 32 for head coaches. Matt Eberflus in the Chicago.
I think Jaquan Brisker filled out all the forms. Like, he was the one filling them all out.
He pulled all they put him in the ballot box. He pulls them back out and changes.
Like, Kyler, let me get that for you. I got it. F. Yeah, that was that. Where do our facilities? Do you remember where our facilities ranked?
Yeah, if you
I were okay, yeah. Like I think like Hallis, I go to a lot of these places. Yeah. Not a lot, not as many as you think. I go to some of these places. The Bears facility is pretty good. Whether it's among the best, whether the players think it's among the best, I can't tell you, but I really like. I'm also a big Sears guy. So anytime I drive by Discover,
yeah, I agree that Hallis Hall is very nice, and they've made some really good upgrades here in the last few years. I think Ryan Pace was kind of at the forefront of a lot
Pace, of that. I know. Obviously he gets a lot of. Ryan Pace died so Ryan Poles could run.
So Hallis Hall could look nicer. So these are some of the rankings. Treatment of families, 19th. I don't like that one.
The Bears?
Yeah, Bears ranked 19th in treatment of families.
Oh, you know why? Because they charge so much for the tickets.
Yeah, that could be. But that one's not great. And I'm sure the Bears, are going to try to clean that up. Food and dining area, 22nd.
What the hell?
Nutritionist, dietitian, 19th.
Don't care for that.
Locker room, 8th.
That's good. Yeah, the locker room's good.
Yeah, training room, that was graded as an A-. Training room, 11th, graded as a B+. Okay. Training staff, 17th.
Yeah,
I think they changed out some of their training staff employees. Weight room, 6th. They've had significant upgrades in the weight room. If you go to training camp, you can see it on the main fields. Strength coaches, 20th, a B+. We were talking with Matt Forte at the Super Bowl, and he was talking about how he had to get his own guys. But Matt Forte is also a different animal when it comes to the way he works out.
No, but that was a time for the Bears. And I know that we had injuries this year, but it's like, it felt like every year the injuries. Well, I think a lot of it had to do with the field. Like the field at Soldier was so bad for so long.
Yeah, and so to wrap it up, team travel 19th, but it was graded a B. I know you probably heard the New England Patriots plane still has the ashtrays on the seats, and so theirs was ranked 32nd. As we said, head coach 32nd in the league for the Bears, and then finally ownership ranked 13th with an A-. So George still kind of in the upper half.
Yeah.
So and
I told you.
yeah.
Well, I think if Ben Johnson wasn't hired, this survey could have been a lot different. I had a bit, yeah. Like, listen, I know where the fans come in and how they feel, but I'm telling you, as somebody who goes around the league, the Bears organization, not as terrible as you think. Don't quote it. Don't do that. Like, put it a little. I can put that a little bit nicer. I think the Bears family is pretty underrated. I like the Hallis family. Obviously, the McCaskey and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's good. And then all of a sudden, once we start winning, we'll be like, what a great family this is. Oh, what a great family.
Hey, we're tough. It's tough love in Chicago. And, we get it from the fan base. And, we give it as media or fans to the Bears or coaches or ownership. But if we're talking about you and we're being tough on you, it's because we love you.
Yeah, it's not like we're gonna just disappear when things go wrong or do whatever. Yeah, that's just that's one of the things about being a fan of the Chicago Bears is that you're gonna know where you stand. There's no gray area, and I think everybody's got an opinion, and most of them are wrong, but still, no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so that all looks positive. That all looks good. So listen, I know that you're going to be on your way to the what did you decide? Are you going to the Pacers game or not?
Yeah, I think I'll walk over.
Go over there.
It's right down the street. My Airbnb is right next door to it, essentially. So go drop my bag, go in there and check out the game, and
go check out the food.
Yeah,
I wonder if we've seen this with a lot of facilities. I think this is happening in Phoenix and Atlanta. The Falcons kind of started this. They're actually charging reasonable prices for food and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, why don't they do that? Like, I understand, like, you don't want to get people S-housed. So, okay, if it's $20 for a beer, like, okay, tough luck. Sorry that you can't drink 30 beers. But I think, like, if I want Sour Patch Kids, it should be $1. That would be my thing.
No, I agree. I'm all for that. I think they should absolutely start dialing that down. I think you'd get more fans to show up to the game. So I'm all for it.
All right. Well, listen, there's a lot of cool stuff that's going to be happening here at the NFL Scouting Combine, and Greg Braggs is going to be on the ground covering it all for CHGO. Do I have to come on Friday? Is that still happening?
Well, we're going to be here, so I think maybe you're off the hook again. So you can go. No, don't say that. You can go get 18 holes in, or even 36 now, since I'm not bugging you, and you don't have to put up with Carm. You get a week off from Carm, so that's.
I miss Carm. I almost just called him just to hear from him.
Yes, absolutely.
I like this to settle this down for everybody. I like Carm. I assume that he enjoys me, but I like him. I don't have to always agree with somebody. It's fine.
Of course.
And it goes back to the maid swingers thing too, like with us. Like, it's funny. Like, it's just funny. But it now lends me to, like, every time, like, talking about the Breakfast Club. Like, are you St. Elmo's Fire or are you Breakfast Club? Right. Are you Tommy Boy or are you Black Sheep? Because now, like, what are you, a Star Wars guy?
Right. I'm a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. I do that. Of the original trilogy, of the three, which is your favorite?
2, 1, 3.
The original. So 2, Empire.
I'm sorry, 5, 4, 6.
5, 4, 6. Yeah. So I really like Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I think that Luke Skywalker coming in.
It's underrated. I mean, I think it's not. I'm not gonna say it's underrated. It's overly hated on by some.
Yeah, ridiculously so. The Ewoks were cool. They were fine. And for the age that we were when that movie came out, in any event, that doesn't matter. Hey, I want to thank you though for checking in with us here tonight from Indianapolis, giving us the update.
Wait. We've got a few special guests.
Oh,
some really, combine elites here. I've been working really hard all week long, and there's been a few people here that have been the hardest workers at the NFL Combine.
Is it McAfee?
Joining me now.
Oh gosh!
Come over here. Come on in. Come on in.
There he
We've
is.
got this. These guys have.
Oh, I wonder, like, if people have never seen Anello before.
Your
Did we talk
whole
about him
crew
enough?
you can move that back too if you want. The whole crew has been killing it. So, because I'm not just here, we're not just here with CHGO, but we are here.
Oh, there's Sammy.
We are here for you, Adam Rank. We're working hard, and we're having a lot of fun. And
So, how do we convince Adam to come here next
that's
year?
what I'm saying.
How
We've
do
been talking
you know
about-
what? I'll tell you how you do it. Tell the NFL to approve our credentials before a week before the week of.
Adam,
Like
you
literally.
you work for the NFL. There's no way this can be this
The
hard.
NFL
If they're letting me in here, there's no way this should be this hard for you. So we got to get this figured out. We 100% got to get this figured out. So
It is one of those things, though. I will tell you, it is the only NFL event that I have never been to. It is the only one. It doesn't make, and we pitch this every year as a fantasy person, as a person for fantasy football. And Matthew Berry goes a lot. And so one of the years that Matthew Berry was there, and we would go out and we would be like, hey, look, like this is what Matthew Berry was doing. Matthew Berry gets to go out there, talk to every offensive coordinator, every coach, like, hey, what are you guys running this year?
Right.
What are you looking for in free agency and the draft, all that stuff? Like, it's a very valuable thing for somebody, especially in fantasy, because I would say this, and like you watch, like I don't knock our product, but like if you watch and like for me, as much of a goof as I am, it's like we talk ball on Fantasy Live more than anything. Like there is never a segment on NFL Fantasy Live that's non-football related. Hey, Juliana's there. Like, listen, everybody's out there having a good time. So I want to go. I just need to know. I can't drive there. It's not like, listen, if this event was in Phoenix, if it was in Palm Springs, if it was in Las Vegas, San Francisco, San Diego, oh, let's do that. Let's just have it in San Diego every year. Let's just have it at Petco Park.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, hi.
Oh my
the
God.
whole family is
The family's here.
The
I'm the only
family
one
is
missing.
here.
We're missing you.
I'm missing you guys.
Yeah.
Is where are they having dinner? Where's everybody having dinner tonight?
Where are you guys going tonight?
Tonight we're going to Vicino.
Vicino.
Yes.
And it's always got to be an Italian place.
Yeah.
It's always going to have because Sammy has to eat pasta, which is fine.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
with it. Although the thing that drives me absolutely crazy is that Anello kept ordering pizzas and it was always the white pie. And I'm like, please stop doing this. He's like, I don't trust anybody else's sauce. And you're like, it's New Orleans. Like, it's going to be fine. I guarantee you the food's going to be good. Indianapolis, I don't know. I get your apprehension on Indianapolis.
It's been good so far.
It has been. I'm
Indy's
sure
a great town.
it's a great place. It honestly is a great place.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's go.
Well, we love you, Adam.
Thank
and
you, Adam.
we
No, love
miss
you guys. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry that I couldn't be there. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna let them know real quick. We got another. We medaled again. My girls
Another
medaled
one.
again. Yeah.
Let's go.
I think I kind of bottled it, but it was good. We played this team that had been together. Like my team's been together since November, and we're killing these extra teams and all this other thing. But we run into a team every once in a while that's been playing together for 2 years, and you're like, it's tough. But we medaled in every tournament we played in, so we're good.
March 4th, I'm getting an Arsenal shirt signed by the whole team.
Ooh.
So we'll see.
Not Raheem Sterling though. He doesn't need to sign it.
Yeah.
Okay, have a good night. Thank you, Adam.
All right, thanks guys. Hey, you know what? Thanks for it's awesome. On the last clip with Dan Campbell, you didn't cut off Greg's voice this time. That was nice of you.
No.
The first one you did, but that's okay.
Greg is out of the 1,000 people here. Greg is the best guy here.
Dude, like listening to it, like he's asking these questions, and I know that it's obviously Chicago focused, but that's exactly like we don't care what Dan Campbell's thoughts are on Matt LaFleur's eyebrows.
But
We want to know about Ben Johnson's stuff.
He's very good at what he does.
Amazing. No, you guys are all doing a great job.
Thank
and
you.
I'm going through some serious FOMO, and I'm trying I'm trying to mask it by pretending I don't care, but I really hate not being there.
You've got championships to chase, so that's okay. Well, we'll get you here eventually, but we miss you and we love you.
All right, miss you guys. Love you
Have a
all.
great night, Adam. Thank you, man.
And thanks for everything.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, Greg. Well, I'll wrap it up there. Shane, thank you so much for putting this all together. Greg's got a basketball game to get through. Oh, I've got training. I got soccer training. Speaking of which, right now, we got extra soccer training tonight. So in any event, thank you everybody for being here. As news breaks, the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank will be on top of it. And of course, check out Greg Braggs and all the great stuff he does for the All City Network and CHGO. So until the next time I see you, bear down. And Shane, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.